We welcome you to another live edition of the Sports Box, brought to you by our friends at CrowdPlay. Download the free CrowdPlay app today and use the box at sign up for 10 points. And here we go.
Good morning. It is week 5 in the NFL, and we are here in the Sports Box getting you ready for it. I am Brian Attard along with Tony Quigley. We'll have another little cast of characters that will join us in just a little bit. Tony, how are you this morning?
I'm doing good. I think somebody just scored on the Dallas defense, though. I'm not sure about that one, but
how bad are they, huh?
Awful.
They are abysmal. I have no positive words at all to say about them. Yeah. But it is week 5. We will get started. Quick shout out to our friends over at CrowdPlay. Check the guys out at the CrowdPlay app, Apple App Store, Google Play. It is free to play. You can win cash and prizes guessing the outcome of sporting events. Check that out. I think you'll enjoy it. However, Tony has become a weekly occurrence on this show. We have a little bit of breaking news.
We have breaking news here on the Sports Box.
And that breaking news is the Patriots and Broncos game, which was moved from Sunday to Monday, now moved to a future Sunday.
Next week
into week 6. The Bills and Titans still up in the air for Tuesday night. That game appears to be scheduled. However, another positive test in Tennessee this morning, and we're just not sure. Tony, we talked about this last week. You know, they have the scheduling ability to do whatever they want here. So you can do a week 18, you can do whatever you want to, but this seems to be getting worse. I don't think it's going to get any better in the short term, but it just seems like, it's one step forward, 2 steps back. They're moving games around now to make scheduling work. I don't know what you do, but there's talk of canceling the season. That's not going to happen. That I can tell you.
Yeah, I think from the onset, we were very clear in saying that wasn't going to be an option. Just too much money involved, everything that just is around the NFL season. There's ways to get around it. Just canceling games, add an extra bye week, something like that. I mean, you're looking at there'll be a solution. It might not be what everybody likes. It might drive fantasy managers crazy with, Josh Allen, or if you're depending on somebody from the Broncos to kind of step up, or, you don't have to be mixing and matching your roster, going a little bit crazy with it. But at the end of the day, the show will go on, as they say.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things where, and we said this last week, the more games on TV, the better. So I don't really think that the NFL at the end of the day is too upset about it. Again, we appear to be having a Tuesday night game for the first time in a long time. I think it's only the second time that we'll have a Tuesday night game, to my recollection. I could be wrong on that. I have not verified that. But yeah, as far as these teams of the Titans now, they haven't been able to practice for a couple of weeks now. So from the standpoint of preparing for a game,
legally practice.
Yeah, that's true. But from the standpoint of preparing for a game and everything that goes around that, are they in a tough spot now because they have not been able to really do much of anything?
Yeah, I think they're really being handcuffed. I mean, as far as the preparation, I mean, a team like Tennessee, thankfully, there's pretty much filled with veterans, and they're not really looking at, there's no like QB controversy or anything like that. So they're a solid unit, so they should be able to get out there and play and have communication with each other and game plan for, I'm not going to say a common opponent with Buffalo, but somebody that they're familiar with. So, I mean, it is tough because of the reps. That's why you see poor tackling and maybe some little out of sync quarterback receiver play, especially now with AJ Brown back in the fold for Tannehill. So, I mean, yeah, stuff. It might not be the easiest or prettiest first half of football.
From a Patriot standpoint, though, it's actually probably a good thing because you have another week for Cam Newton to return. Obviously, I think any chances they have of winning that game, relatively speaking, the Broncos aren't very good, but they definitely improve with Cam under center. So that's a backward way of probably saying it's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think Patriots win this game depending on no matter who's under center. To be honest with you, but it's definitely a big. Unless they give them more time for positive tests. Now, if they find more positive tests and uncover some more stuff, then who knows who will benefit. But from this standpoint, you have to look out for the Patriots and what they've been doing with Cam Newton, which is pretty surprising. And actually, if you look at how they played Kansas City last week, no practice. Travel day of against the Super Bowl champs, they fought pretty hard, especially with changing quarterback midway through the game and that kind of stuff. I mean, that's a Julian Edelman drop away from being a really competitive game.
And the Broncos have an extended period of time off. So they played Thursday last week. Now they're off this week. So they kind of get themselves a nice little vacation. Melvin Gordon, I saw on Twitter, was saying, I can't believe they're going to basically saying I'm not going to play this game now as a result. But he's like, oh, we practiced all week and now we're not playing the game. I'm pretty sure that he was the one that actually, missed most of last season, concerned about making a contract. So,
yeah, I mean, and all that money, he turned down all that money. So let's not put much stock in Melvin Gordon's opinions because he doesn't make the soundest decisions, as we see.
I'm actually getting a fantasy offer here. Actually,
what happened?
It's funny. No, it's just somebody was offering me Justin Jackson for my backup tight end. I think I can probably be fine with that. In a league we're actually both in. Thursday night, the Bears were a 3.5 point underdog. They go ahead and they beat the Buccaneers 20-19. The Bears. I mean, I don't know what else you can really say about this team other than they're probably the worst 4-1 team in the league. I don't know how they win games. It doesn't make any sense to me. But I think that the lasting image we will all remember from this game is Tom Brady forgetting how many downs there were, saying, oh, isn't it fourth down? Isn't it fourth down? I mean, I know, the age with time, you start losing, you forget things, but not a good look for the GOAT. Not forgetting how many downs there were.
You're trying to say there's going to be a little senile set in right there?
Unfortunately, it doesn't seem that way. Unfortunately,
it's kind of funny because I heard this morning somebody brought up an interesting point about this. Kind of opens up the Pandora's box for the Belichick was the brains over Brady kind of situation. Now, as in any coaching aspect, you want to make sure that your team always knows the down distance and all that kind of stuff. You would expect, somebody, who's labeled the greatest quarterback of all time to actually know that. But, when the games get a little crazy, things get a little confused. You should always have a coach in his ear, reminding him of that. I don't know if that would have changed the outcome either. I think really, we said the Bears after week one, they were the best. They were the worst 0-1, 1-0 team, worst 2-0, 3-0, 4-0. Now, I mean, it's like, at at what point do we start kind of giving these guys credit? I mean, we've witnessed all too closely what Nick Foles does. I mean, he doesn't always look pretty, doesn't always look great, but somehow, somewhere, he's on the winning end of a ball game. I think the turning point with this, I mean, first of all, it was an awfully officiated game. I mean, the officials there, they blew numerous calls. So I think that's, that seems a little bit more nice comment there, bud.
That's what Chris Wilhelm does not use technology. That's
all right.
He's just not that bright. So
I'm glad Willie's watching. We might want to remind our viewers who Willie is, because he's been MIA for quite some time. So, well,
I mean, there's not really a whole lot to talk about that's positive for anything going on in his sports life. So obviously, he doesn't want to do shows.
We'll talk about it a little bit either way. But back to I think another thing with the coaching aspect that you kind of point, where you separate Arians from Belichick, is in that game, Tampa Bay decided to take a field goal at instead of going for it. And I think once they made that field goal, them taking the lead right there, there's certain aspects and analytics out there that show you that only changed their winning percentage probability to 0.02. So that then there tells you, listen, you need to go for a first down, you need to go for a touchdown, you need 7 there on that drive, take time off the clock. And it bit them in the ass, and it played out perfectly. And what do we make of the Bears? I have no clue. Wait,
Yeah, I mean, it's just weird because, like, I can't point and say, wow, like, that's one thing they really do well. Like, they didn't run the ball barely at all in this game. Allen Robinson had 90 yards receiving. I mean, Foles was, 30 of 42, 243 yards and a touchdown. But, like, I mean, I don't get it. I don't know I can't say with any kind of certainty, oh, well, this is what I like about what this team does. But again, listen, you are what your record says you are, and they're 4-1, right in the hunt for to lead the NFC North. They're in a playoff spot, I would easily assume, with the wild cards. So, I mean, if you're a Bears fan, you're not going to be too upset about this.
Listen, it's a results-based business, right?
That's right. Absolutely.
No such things as an ugly win, and you're looking at a 4-1 team, and Nick Foles gets it done. And he didn't look good doing it, to be honest with you.
Have to keep, Nick Foles keeps on Tom Brady. I mean, is at the end of the day, though, like, are you confident in a guy like Foles that he can actually keep this going? Not that I feel any good about Mitch, because I don't. I think Mitch is god-awful. But Mitch at least had some pedigree coming in. Foles is he is what he is. But I can't. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, well, obviously Nick Foles is going to lead this team to a 12-4 record.
Well, listen, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, because from a talent standpoint, what you see with Nick Foles is unimpressive. I mean, he does make some good throws. He the stuff on the football field. But the one thing that I think people discount about him when they actually watch him throw a football or try to run or whatever he does is he maintains calm in that offense. He's great in the locker room. He's that traditional team leader that has the intangibles that you don't really see when you're watching him. And Mitch Trubisky has all that arm talent and the speed and everything like that. But then when he gets out there, he just throws up clunker after clunker, and the guys don't really have faith in him. The guys, from wherever team Foles has been on, they have faith on him. He's been a great locker room guy. I mean, and I think that has to go a long way when, the talent level is, negligible.
Yeah, but even for a team that, like I said, they should be running the ball a lot more, and they're not. I mean, that's a surprise to me. Defensively, they are what they are. I mean, they're a very good defense, but
there's a running joke about Matt Nagy. I think the Barstool guys over there have I know what it was. I think it's called I know what I'm doing bet, and it's the over/under rushing attempts by the Chicago Bears. So I mean, listen, I'm not going to sit here and give Nagy too much credit. He has a pretty much pass-based offense, with two quarterbacks that you might not want to run a pass-based offense around. So,
to say the very least. We'll talk a little bit about we're at the quarter pole now. We're 4 weeks through, at least most teams are, unless you're Pittsburgh and Tennessee. And 25% of the season is done. Who stands out to you as a team that is exceeding expectations so far? Obviously, you can definitely say the Bears fit that bill, but we've already kind of beaten that horse into the ground, so we'll kind of let that one sit. I think the one for me, if I had to pick one, would be the Los Angeles Rams, because I think universally they were picked to be, at the best case, third in that division, maybe fourth if you believed in the Cardinals. And here they are. They're 3-1. They're a game out of first place, and they're ahead of the other two teams, especially the Niners who went to the Super Bowl last year. They're doing a lot right. They could be 4-0 if they were just able to hold on to that comeback attempt in Buffalo. So, they're plus 26 in point differential. That's good enough for third in their own division, but fourth in the NFC. Tough division, but they're hanging in. That would be my team, I think, that's a surprise upside.
No, the Rams are definitely a good pick. I was a little higher on them coming into the season, but I mean they have had a favorable early schedule too. Let's not having to play the NFC East with what they got to do. They play the Cowboys, Giants, Redskins, Eagles. I mean,
yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah. So I mean, anytime you can start your a season without any preseason games against the NFC East, it's pretty much like giving you a preseason. And at Buffalo, I mean, listen, they showed a lot of heart. Now, would they be in second place if the 49ers were healthy? I don't think so. I mean, I think the 49ers injuries took a toll on them quick. But listen, they're battling. They're right back in there. And obviously Emilio, I think the Bears, I mean, we just talked a lot about them, but I think the Bears are probably the key team there. No need to apologize at all. At the end of the day, you're 4-1 and you deserve to be. So another surprise team in a positive way, the record's not really reflecting it, but the Cincinnati Bengals. I think what Joe Burrow is doing is not surprising in the sense that people thought he was going to be successful, but he's out there breaking records. He's out there looking good doing it. He seems like he is definitely, the easy favorite for a rookie of the year. I mean, so, in that aspect, and the team is showing, some improvement too. So I'd say, the Cincinnati Bengals have been a pleasant surprise. I mean, they have a tie, on the record. They have a win on the record. I mean, hey, what are you going to do? So that'd be my pleasant surprise.
Little hat tip to Anthony DeSalvatore, who I think thought I was somebody else last week on a different show from our friends over at All Everything Entertainment. The other upside team to me, frankly, is the Cleveland Browns. And you know what? Maybe that's because they just waxed my football team last week. But guess what? They're 3-1. In most other divisions in the league, they're not in third place. They're tied with the Baltimore Ravens. If you told me before the season started that through 4 weeks, the Browns are tied with the Ravens, I'd be like, oh, what the hell's wrong with the Ravens? Because you didn't really think that the Browns would be 3-1. But here we are, and here they are. And they're a phenomenal rushing team. We're going to talk about that game in a little bit. They're going to miss Nick Chubb for a little while, but they're deep there. So I think they can easily keep that going. And listen, egg on my face. I didn't like the Stefanski hire more so because I think it was the situation more than him. But again, you can't argue with the results. And they're outplaying a lot of teams that should be better than them.
Yeah, I know we were on opposite ends of the Stefanski hire. I thought it was a good hire, but you had valid concerns thinking that, it could be more of a systematic problem in Cleveland with the whole organization that Stefanski wouldn't be able to overcome. But I'll give them credit. They are sticking to their game plan. They're limiting Baker Mayfield. I mean, listen, the best pass thrown Sunday in a Browns uniform wasn't by Baker Mayfield. Yeah. So, I mean, They're doing a great job. I mean, and it's unfortunate to see what happened to Nick Chubb, but they came off the bench with Kareem Hunt, and he just kickstarts the offense and doesn't miss a beat and averages, I don't know, it seemed like 10 yards a carry. I mean, I don't know what it was, but it was close. So I mean, yeah, Cleveland Browns have been a surprise, and it's more of a surprise where they're actually playing hard and they have a game plan. And in years past, you didn't see a game plan.
Are you surprised the Bills are 4-0, or are you not really surprised the Bills are 4-0? Given the fact that, to be fair, they haven't really had a very tough schedule to start.
That's what I was going to say. We thought they were going to be good. Josh Allen is a playmaker. We didn't know how well he was going to be making plays. I was pretty high on him. I got him in a number of fantasy leagues, but the defense was going to be solid as well. They look very good, but like I said, they haven't played anything. I mean, who was their biggest test? I guess the Rams at home. Yeah. You're not starting to punch your ticket in a weak AFC East to the Super Bowl yet, but I'd like to see them beat an improved New England team who's showing some heart more than anything, which I do expect Buffalo to be the class of that division. But yeah.
Well, especially we still have these issues in New England with all sorts of COVID-related issues. But on the other side of the coin, you take a look at some of the teams that are some of the more disappointing teams this year, and we can spend an hour, the rest of the show, talking about the team we both root for. So we'll leave them to the end of this specific conversation because they're going to come up, I'm sure. But for me, when I look at a team, I say, wow, they really should not be as bad as they are. The Minnesota Vikings just stand out to me like a sore thumb. This was a team that you just kind of thought would bounce back from a non-playoff year. Like they made playoffs here. Actually, they made the playoffs last year. They actually won a game last year. I'm thinking of somebody else. They've been bad. And there's really no other way around it. And I'm not going to buy this thing that, they lost Stephon Diggs. Receivers are not that big of a reason as to why these things happen. So if I got to pick one team other than the Star that is a disappointing team, I think it's them far and away.
Well, they were one of the teams that popped into my head immediately was the Vikings. But I think with the Vikings and Rams are on the polar opposites on schedule too. Because if you look at how I think the Vikings played, every team they played besides Houston, who they beat, was a playoff team last year. Well, I'm sorry, Indianapolis wasn't, but they're projected to be a playoff team. So yeah, Green Bay, Indianapolis, and Tennessee were their losses, and 2 out of those 3 games were close games. So they haven't reached expectations, but there isn't a game that they're walking into that said that they should win. And beating Houston on the road last week shows that it's an improvement. I think they're very similar to what Cleveland is as far as offensively. Yes, they lost Stephon Diggs, but Justin Jefferson has really stepped up for him. Adam Thielen is just a solid receiver week in, week out. That Kirk Cousins is the X factor there, how he's going to play week to week. But they're using the play action with with Dalvin Cook, and it's kind of a lot what like Tennessee's doing in pretty much their offensive packaging, and it really lends itself to the helping the quarterback, not putting a lot on Kirk Cousins, and Cousins made a couple good throws. They have been disappointing, but I still think there's a decent uptick to them. I think they're going to be battling in close on the games. They have nothing in their secondary. They lost Anthony Barr. I mean, every team could come out here and talk about injuries, but you're looking at a team now who, if they could figure out and get some continuity on defense, I think they're disappointing, but they're going to be battling. I think they should improve.
Do you want to talk about this team? Do you want to bring it up right now, or do you want to just
Dallas Cowboys?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, yeah. Let's talk about it. I think you got your Cowboys shirt on.
Listen, if you have hate,
my Cavaliers that shirt on. Listen, it's the Dallas Cowboys. The effort comments that came out from Xavier Woods, who obviously isn't the sharpest tool in the shed, because I think what he was trying to say is that by the end of the game they're tired and they can't give 100%. I don't think he was trying to say it was like an effort and they're not trying. But then you look at some of the tape in the film, you see some backside pursuits that really weren't what they needed to be. You see some other things that you really kind of questioned. Now, I also see some reasons that some of this stuff has happened, like we spoke to in the past. They're trying to put a completely new defensive scheme in. They're missing eight or 7 or 8 stars on defense now, which including your entire secondary. Like I mentioned before the show last week, I said, I asked you guys who's the starting cornerbacks for the Cowboys, right? And you're like, no one freaking knows. Darryl Worley. Darryl Worley was the backup 3rd string safety, and now we're only in week 4 and he's the starting cornerback. That is a problem no matter what team we're on. And they took advantage of it. And then especially when you have a rookie starting opposite of them. So the clubhouse, the mentality, that's the thing that you need to be concerned about yourself with the Cowboys. If the effort is truly a problem, you're not going to be able to get rid of Mike Nolan at this point. It just doesn't make sense. You might be able to change the scheme a little bit, get more production out of your Lawrence, who, obviously is in a 3-4 end, but it's supposed to be a hybrid. I'm not seeing much of a hybrid, but at this point, you don't really even know what type of defense they are. I mean, they're running nickels. It's bad, and just good thing they could score because at least the games are entertaining.
But that's the thing is, yeah, they can score, but they only seem to be scoring in the second half. I mean, it's like if you didn't find yourself down the way you allow yourself to get down, you wouldn't need to move heaven and earth to come back in the second half. You wouldn't have to rely. They should be 0-4. You wouldn't have to rely on a misplayed onside kick for the only win you have this year. Like you're causing these problems yourself. It's like one of those things where, now I'm not going to get political here, but all politicians do this. They cause a problem, then they fix it, and they want credit for it. Like it's like one of those things where, so you allowed yourself to be down 25 points, or whatever it is, but you almost came back. So good for you. Like you're doing this to yourself.
Well, last week, if you remember, Brian, they scored 14 points in the first quarter. And I think what you're seeing here is that's when the ills on the offensive line kind of creep in, because they need to start changing their philosophy. Like if you score first or if you get the lead, you have to run the ball. And now with Smith out and everybody else out on the offensive line, that power running game almost seems non-existent. Ezekiel Elliott is playing well besides the fumbling issues, which is maddening. But other than that, if you get out to a 14-point lead, you need to maybe try to change the philosophy a little bit. Like, hey, we have a horrible defense. Keep them off the damn floor. Ball control. Blah blah blah. Typical recipe for success. They might need to change the philosophy a little bit. Except, listen, because when you're looking at the Cowboys, right? You have Dak, you have Zeke, you have CD, Gallup, Amari. Even Schultz is doing. Like, listen, there's a lot of toys to play with if you're an offensive coordinator. It's a fun team to go out there and throw the ball around the field. But when you have nothing on defense except St. Mary's Pop Warner team, you have to change the philosophy, and you have to. It might not be the fun way to do it, but it's the right way to do it, because as we just said about the Bears, I don't care how good you say your team is, at the end of the day, you still have one win, and it's a fluke.
You look at some of these teams with bad records, and I guess I'm going to ask the same question I asked in a different way from the good teams. When you look at a 0-4 Atlanta Falcons team, is that surprising or expected?
Atlanta, nothing surprises me in Atlanta. I mean, it's just a culture that doesn't really have winning as a priority. I mean, we've been for weeks screaming about Dan Quinn. How's he have a job? Blah, blah, blah. We know he has a job. Like I said, it's not a winning culture. It's not their emphasis. Matt Ryan's, 36 years old?
He's up there.
Wouldn't be a bad thing for them to get into Trent Lawrence, Justin Fields, Trey Lance sweepstakes at all. They're going to go out there, going to score some points, and it's going to be fun to watch. That game last week, wasn't a bad thing to watch. The game coming up against the Panthers, that's not going to be too bad to watch. I mean, it's going to be entertainment. It's going to help fantasy, unless you have Julio Jones, who can't get right with his hamstring. But it's a fun team. But they're not going to win. So
when you look at a Houston team 0-4, is that a surprise or expected?
Well, I mean, listen, when you look at the offseason that Bill O'Brien, losing Hopkins, I think David Johnson actually has looked better than some people expected. I didn't have high hopes for Houston at all. J.J. Watt and them guys, I think the defense is a little bit shell of themselves. I think, running a little bit more on reputation now. They have to, if they're going to be the unit to carry the team, they have to step up. Deshaun Watson has to run the ball more. He has to start making plays. But is 0-4? I don't think they're 0-4, 0-16 bad team, but at the same time, it's not surprising.
Well, they don't have their first round pick. So if you're a Houston fan, you better hope you get some wins piled up, because you're not going to be able to bear the fruits of that labor. Usually when you have a bad year, you get rewarded with a high draft pick. In this case, that ain't going to happen.
But they also, I mean, if you looked, I think we talked about this last week or the week before, when they started the season, Kansas City, Baltimore. It was the first time anybody faced back-to-back MVPs, and then you have Pittsburgh and then they have Minnesota, which is a game that, if you're going to take that step forward, is a game that they should win. But with Bill O'Brien calling the shots, you can't have any expectations there.
Julio Jones just went inactive.
Yeah.
So if you happen to be one of these people that traded for him in a league, you might want to reevaluate that. Anyway, I'll have to fix that. But we do have another little bit of breaking news, and I love to use the graphic.
I know.
We have breaking news here on the Sports Box.
Now the schedules, they're trying to figure this out as to the moving pieces in the puzzle. So the Chargers and Broncos moves to week 8, which was the Denver bye. The Dolphins and the Broncos moves to week 11, which was the Miami bye. Problem with that is the Chargers were facing the Jaguars week 8. That's going to need to be rescheduled.
Yeah, what we're seeing and what was kind of predicted is that these teams that are already out of playoff contention and have no interest, I guess, nationally are kind of they're the ones getting shuffled and moved around. Like you see Miami, Jacksonville. I mean, they're not priority games. So they're trying to get the priority games in because the worst case scenario, and I really hate this idea, is they give credit to winning percentage over wins, losses. I think that's completely unfair, especially when you see a team like Tennessee, who everybody's doing all the shuffling around. They violated protocol, so I don't know if they're going to get fined or what, but they shouldn't be able to sneak into the playoffs with a higher percentage record because they're the ones who caused these issues. So I wouldn't want to see that, but it's good to get the teams that are playing for playoff contention in their games in at least. So there's comparing more apples to apples when you're looking down the road at tiebreakers and stuff like that.
I mean, it comes down to the draft. I mean, I just think you got to get these games played. I don't know how you do it, but at the end of the day, to be fair, this is like the NBA, the NHL, they do their drafts via lotteries. Again, it's not lockstep. There's still some advantage if you don't play your full schedule, but in this specific case, it's down the line with records. So for me, I think they got to find a way to play those games, regardless of if they have playoff implications or not.
I think they do, and you see some stadiums allowing fans in now, or at least family members and stuff like that. I think the owners will want to see that, some revenue based, and I think eventually they'll get played.
We'll kick off the Sunday slate in Atlanta. We mentioned those 0-4 Falcons. They are being visited by the 2-2 Carolina Panthers. They're actually laying 2.5 in this game. The over-under is 54. Atlanta's defense is the 31st ranked in the NFL. There are only 32 teams, so that's not good. Julio Jones is inactive today. I just had to move Justin Jackson into my fantasy lineup. Not really feeling too enthused about that, but it is what it is. Carolina playing a little bit better, I think, than anybody thought that they would. Without McCaffrey in the lineup, bit of a surprise there that they're 2-2. I don't think that they're 2-2 is necessarily in their best interest to be 2-2, but neither here nor there. Falcons get off the schneid?
Listen, I think so. I think there's been a ton of late money, big money on Atlanta. I mean, that's all the bets are coming in. The biggest bets this weekend that I've heard are on Atlanta. So it looks like Atlanta is the team that is expected to win this ball game, as you see, is a 2.5-point favorite. The high scoring game of the week, possibly. I don't think there's going to be much defense. I think there's going to be tons of offense. Teddy Bridgewater has really done a nice job mixing the ball around to all his receivers. Mike Davis has kind of stepped in and gave him a thing, give him a little bit of running threat. I mean, they beat it. Who they beat last week? Arizona. Yeah. They beat Arizona last week,
which is a bit of a surprise to me.
Which was a little bit of a surprise, but their young defensive line, especially Derek Brown, a kid from Auburn, I mean, he's really been causing some havoc. But I still think Atlanta will be able to make the big plays. I'll take Matt Ryan over Teddy Bridgewater, and even without Julio Jones, Ridley, Gage, they have the other receiver that I can't even pronounce from Virginia. He used to be a running back.
Yeah, I'm not even going to try because it's going to be very bad.
Yeah, I actually had him in college fantasy a couple of years ago, but yeah.
College, now that's got to be interesting.
It's a lot more fun than NFL, I'll tell you that.
I mean, I'm sure you can probably find quarterbacks very late in drafts that are putting up 500 yards, depending on what league they're in.
Well, it's a dynasty draft, so I mean, we're taking freshmen, you're taking stuff like that. I've had Najee Harris, who just had 200 yards and 5 touchdowns last night. Since he was a redshirt freshman playing behind, Kenyon Drake and all these other guys. So, yeah, very interesting.
I kind of think Atlanta finds a way to win, but I'm not going to bet it because clearly I have no trust in anything Atlanta does. I mean, Atlanta could be up, obviously, as we've seen, multiple touchdowns in the fourth quarter and it not matter. Not that I think Bridgewater and this offense is equipped to come back from that, but at the same time, Atlanta finds ways to lose those games. So,
yeah, I think Atlanta, there's no way I'm putting any money on it except the over.
Yeah.
both of these teams don't hit 30, 28, 30 points, I'd be very surprised.
Yeah, that's probably fair assessment there. The Las Vegas Raiders 2-2 are headed into the grindhouse. Kansas City's going to probably whoop their ass. 4-0, the Chiefs laying 11.5, over-unders 55. Henry Ruggs expected to play. Here's a bit of a tidbit for you. The Chiefs are the first team in NFL history to start 4-0 in 4 straight seasons. That's probably pretty good. Had a Super Bowl.
That's very impressive. I mean, you have to think that even before they won the Super Bowl, I mean, you have to go to the 2 seasons before that where you're very shocked, at the consistency that they put out. Give his credit to Andy Reid and his preparation and everything like that prior to going into the game. His always been time management and decisions in the game itself, but his week up preparation has always been excellent. Some of the things that I've seen is how bad that they've actually destroyed the Raiders. I think Kansas City has scored multiple 30-point plus on them in the last few years. Can Derek Carr give them a shootout? I mean, I don't know if you want that. I think you're going to see a lot of Clyde Edwards-Helaire, or however you want to pronounce it, this week. A little bit more ball control, and KC look to hit the big plays. With Ruggs helping them back, that's a big help because they've had trouble spreading the field, for Jones and Waller. I think they struggled the last couple of games, especially against the Patriots. So when you're looking at this game, I'm definitely picking Kansas City. If I'm betting, I'd probably still roll with Kansas City. I'm not touching the over/under though.
I can't see the Raiders hanging in this game, and I'm not the numbers. I mean, it's pretty good. The Chiefs are coming off a similar number against the Pats, and they covered it. And I would trust the Pats defense a lot more than I would trust the Raiders defense. Probably think that, maybe the offense for the Raiders should do better than what the Patriots did last week. But having said that, these are the Chiefs. I refer to it as a grindhouse because I think they're going to get beaten up in this game. The Chiefs are that good. If the Chiefs can go into Baltimore and get a win by more than 11.5 points, I think that they would have covered that against the Ravens. You got to assume they could do the same at home against a Raiders team that I don't think is there yet.
But now the Chiefs still have, the game against San Diego, the Chiefs had some issues. The game against New England, the Chiefs had some issues for a while there. I haven't seen that offense that we've been known to be wowed by yet, in those games. So this might be a get-right game for Kansas City where they just completely blow the doors off of Las Vegas.
Yeah, this shouldn't be close. There's a reason it's 11.5. That's not an accident. So I think we're both on the KC side of things.
Absolutely.
Arizona, coming off a loss last week, is 2-2. They're visiting the 0-4 New York Jets, laying a touchdown, over-unders 47.5. Joe Flacco, the Super Bowl winner, gets the start as Sam Darnold is out with injury. Arizona did leave Arizona late due to a false COVID positive on the Jets. This game is fine. There's no concern about it. But again, we mentioned this earlier about scheduling and things. Teams are creatures of habit. You have your routine when you get ready for games, and it did get interrupted by a late flight. Any concern on your part against, frankly, I think the worst team in the league in the Jets?
Yeah, Arizona's dropped 2 in a row. So you're looking at Joe Flacco, a lot of unknowns. Let's not forget Le'Veon Bell is active today, right? I know Adam Gase's favorite running back. So I'm not sure what we're going to see there, but I has to be an improvement over Frank Gore.
Whenever his name comes up, obviously I have to.
Yeah, and it's rightfully so.
What a weirdo.
Arizona has issues on defense, as we said. There's no reason why they should have dropped games to 2 teams that aren't very good in Detroit and Carolina. So I think that's a huge red flag. I think Kyler Murray, Hopkins, they need to maintain that. I think if you're going to win this game from the Arizona perspective, I think you need to rely a little bit more on Kenyon Drake. I know he's had fantasy owners trying to jump off the ship, but or even Chase Edmonds if you want to put him out there. But they're going to have to run the ball and have some consistency because, like Dallas, Arizona's a team. Their offense is going to have to carry them. But you're looking at a dreadful defense, which might be good against Joe Flacco and the Jets. If your defense is struggling, you want to, playing the Jets. Does Joe Flacco have anything left?
No.
Yeah. So
No.
I mean,
No.
I can't see this. But if I'm betting it, I'm taking the Arizona. I'll be comfortable laying the 7. Worst fear is a push, I think. But yeah, this is a game. I think it's going to have some pretty bad weather up there in Meadowlands too. So Kyler Murray, I don't know how he plays in bad weather. He does have small hands for guys his stature. Jets are going to have to make this game real ugly, try to scrape it up, turnover, stuff like that. But at the end of the day, Arizona, too much offensive talent.
Yeah, I mean, they have dropped 2 in a row. I was riding the train when they were 2-0. I think this has all the makings of a get right game for them. I think the Jets are going to put up too much pushback here. Again, I think Adam Gase is riding out the deal to the end of the year. Somebody said, what would they gain by firing him now? I don't know. Some certainty. I mean, at this point, maybe you get somebody in there that might be able to do something better with this quarterback, assuming he comes back healthy. But Jets are a dumpster fire. I'm still laying the 7. If it doesn't work, guess what? At least I didn't bet the Jets. Betting the Jets makes you feel like you want to just jump off a building. So
yeah, I think Bill Burr, who just was on Saturday Night Live, had a great comment about doing his typical New Yorker about choking his dog because the Jets didn't cover or something like that. Yeah, you don't want to bet the Jets.
Sure, absolutely not. Another 1:00 game, Battle of Pennsylvania. The 1-2-1 Philadelphia Eagles coming off a win across the country in San Francisco. Cost me money. At the Pittsburgh Steelers, 3-0 coming off a bye. Steelers again laying a touchdown, same as Arizona. Over-unders 44.5 for the Eagles. As seemed to be a weekly occurrence. No Alshon Jeffrey, no Deshaun Jackson. They are tied for first in the league in sacks. I don't think if you didn't look that up, you would know that. And for the Steelers, Deontay Johnson returns from a toe injury. I mean, I don't like the Eagles based on you probably know that, but I also don't think they're a very good spot in this game. I think Pittsburgh looks really, really good. Their front seven's fantastic. And at the end of the day, what helped them win a week ago was that you couldn't get anything going offensively if you were San Francisco. So I don't think that's going to be a problem. And I don't think the Eagles have enough on the defensive side of the ball to account for all of these weapons. Even if you think James Conner is what he is, that's fine. I like Ebron more than most in this offense, especially in the red zone. I like their receivers a lot. They have 4 capable receivers that can put matchup problems on you. And for a weak secondary like the Eagles have, I think it's a bad matchup for them. So I think the 7 is something I'm pretty comfortable with. But I will say that Wentz looked better last week. He was finally running around and throwing the ball. And he was also actually doing the things that we saw him do in the Super Bowl year where he got hurt, where he wasn't afraid to run. And I don't know if that's maybe he's just finally getting the confidence back with the injuries that he had, but that's big for him. We'll see where that leads to. But I think Pittsburgh wins the game.
Yeah, I think right now what you're looking at is the Eagles' only hope is to, as you mentioned, with that defensive line to get pressure and knock around Big Ben to make some turnovers. And I think that's their only hope to make the game close, to be honest with you. I'm tired. Wentz looked a little bit better last week. He made some good plays, but he also looked awful, as they broke down earlier today on one of the NFL shows. His footwork and everything, he's missing easy passes. So he has that ability that he's going to look good on a couple plays, and you're like, okay, wow, that's why he was a hot draft pick. But then he also has the ability to look like he's never played the position before. So it's a little head scratcher. Now, you could do that and be successful against San Francisco, a team that is missing, half their starting defensive line. This Pittsburgh defense, who is probably one of the top units in the league, although they have had some issues. You would think they would shut down some quarterbacks and some teams a little bit better than they have, but I think their defense is really going to cause Eagles and their problems. I don't care if the Eagles were healthy or not on the wideout, because Alshon Jeffrey and Deshaun Jackson, frankly, they're not scaring anybody in 2020. I mean, let's be realistic about it. So that's not going to be an issue. I think a guy like Eric Ebron is going to torture the secondary and linebacker crew for that defense. I think Ben is going to make the proper throws and the big time plays that need be. And you're looking at a team that, if they're going to be a good team, I think they move easily to 4-0. They shouldn't struggle with this game at all, unless they get to Ben. If they could get to Ben, which could be a possibility. Also expect Chase Claypool. I know you mentioned, the 4 they love going to him deep, and the Eagles secondary does not respond well to that.
I'm starting him today, partly because I have to, because in a league where I have buys and injuries and every other goddamn problem you can think of, he is my best option for a flex receiver. So he is starting for me today. And I actually going to ask you what you thought about that. Not that I have many other options, but I picked him over a guy like Kendrick Bourne because I just don't know what Jimmy G does. But yeah, I mean, listen, if you're going to be a team that's going to try to contend for the AFC, this is a game you got to win. And maybe before the season started, you thought it might be a little more difficult, but I think right now you got to feel good if you're Pittsburgh. You're rested for sure, obviously. So.
And a guy like Ben, that kind of helps out more than anything, and James Conner too. So you're going to see, they're going to be great. I mean, I know if NFL players could have a bye week every 4 weeks, they'd love it.
Yeah, that's true. I think we're both on the Pittsburgh side of things there. The LA Rams take a 3-1 record into Washington, our nation's capital, against the Washington football team. They're 1-3. Rams -7 and the hook over unders 46. The big story here, which we kind of started talking about last week and the week before, we can talk about it now. Kyle Allen gets the start, and that's only half the story, because the other part of the story is that Dwayne Haskins isn't even the backup. He's holding a clipboard, and the guy who is the backup is on like the $6 million man with a completely restructured leg. So that's where this coaching staff is on Dwayne Haskins, the 15th overall pick from a draft a year ago. This sure seems like a quickly impending divorce.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the pick was puzzling when it was made last year. It was puzzling that he was given so much playing time. The guy has horrible work habits. He doesn't seem to be a leader in that clubhouse at all. I mean, as much as talent, you think he could throw the ball far and hard and all that nonsense. Doesn't film study, doesn't do anything. The most surprising thing is that he is inactive. And that means that Alex Smith, and we've seen NFL players dropping like flies this year. Quarterback position, knock on wood, has been relatively safe, besides Jimmy G, maybe a couple others like Darnold. But you're looking at a big hit away from Alex Smith actually playing in a football game. And before this season started, even, as we're, going into week 1, I really didn't suspect that as a possibility, because his leg coming out of the operation and everything like that, and when they were showing pictures, his leg just did not look good at all. So that's major props for him. And listen, Dwayne Haskins, Washington's 1-3. Dwayne Haskins was their quarterback too. They beat the Eagles, so that might be the only starting quarterback win in his season this year.
Hey, listen, I should buy him buy his T-shirt just for that reason. But but we said it I didn't like the draft pick at the time, and really, it isn't. First of all, I don't think Dwayne Haskins is very good. I didn't like him in his draft year, but a lot of the blame here, I think, is unfair. Where you land matters, and he landed on a team with a coach who didn't ask for him. The owner kind of shoved him in. Apparently, I read today that his sons went to school with Haskins. I mean, that's obviously a valid reason to spend a first-round pick on a guy. But you bring in another coach with no attachment to the player, who's going to want to live or die by the guys that he brings in. And he brought in Kyle Allen for that point.
And Allen's a guy who played well for Rivera.
I just don't see it.
No, Daniel Snyder's an absolute joke as an owner. I mean, as much hate and vilification that somebody like Jerry Jones gets, Snyder actually does some horrible things and is just a complete idiot. At least Jones does some good things for the NFL as a whole. It just shows you, wasting a draft pick on a kid your sons went to school with. How about this? Why don't you use a draft pick on a player that's going to actually help your team? And then if you want to sign Dwayne Haskins on the practice squad or whatever, give him tell him don't sign with anybody and just sign him to a practice squad or on your roster and give him $3 million if you want to throw the kid a bone. I mean, if that's how you're just going to waste money, because so not only did you waste the money on Dwayne Haskins' first round pick, now you wasted a draft pick. So, waste money, don't waste a draft pick. I think the Rams come in. The Rams are the Rams in that offense and the way they've been running things. They're a pretty healthy team. I think they have all their running backs now. So good luck on deciding which one is actually going to be relevant this week, because every week it seems like it's either Malcolm Brown, Darrell Henderson, or now you have Cam Akers back in the mix. So good luck trying to pick a running back that's going to do well. But I think the Rams win this game. I think it's going to be a little bit bad weather, but the Rams win pretty easily. So you're looking at Rams win, Rams cover. I think what you'll see early, though, is Kyle Allen and the rest of the Washington team. They're going to have a little bit more uptake. I think they're going to see, that your typical rally around the backup quarterback starting kind of deal, because I think Haskins has burned his bridges in Washington.
But are they a better team with Kyle Allen? And are they an appreciably better team with Kyle Allen?
Well, I mean, I think you're looking at the talent difference. If you take Kyle Allen or Dwayne Haskins, I think it's closer than a lot of people might realize. I mean, Kyle Allen was a stud prospect in college, so you're looking at and of course Paul Allen. It must be the last name. Paul Allen doesn't agree with Kyle Allen. But listen, Kyle Allen and Dwayne Haskins here or there. You know what I'm saying? Like you have a little bit more intangibles, like we spoke earlier about with Nick Foles. You have more, preparation. You have that kind of stuff that maybe, could help, the rest of the team. Talent-wise, Washington doesn't have it, although Chase Young is coming back today. But, I think the Rams, that scheme that McVay put in, I think everybody's going to get touches. Everybody's going to get, a lot of balls, especially Cooper, Kupp, and them guys in the slot. And, I think should be an easy win for the Rams.
Yeah. The defense has been really good this year. I got to give them full credit for that. Jalen Ramsey's punching people. Probably not a good look.
And the backstory of that is great.
I actually don't know the backstory to that. So the
backstory of that is Golden Tate. Jalen Ramsey has been dating Golden Tate's sister for quite a long time and has a couple of kids with her. So a few months ago, Jalen Ramsey left her while she was pregnant. And I guess there was a report out there on Twitter, and then Golden Tate said, "Don't worry, he'll have to see me eventually." So I think, and everybody knows Jalen Ramsey. He's not one to shy away from any kind of trash talk or any kind of action. So after the game, they handled their business. But one thing is, I didn't see too many punches land in the fight after the game, but Jalen Ramsey laid him out. One of the best tackles you're going to see legally in the NFL in a long time. Crushing blow. So, yeah, it's always fun, little backstory like that.
Rams win. Skins stink. I'm sorry. Football team stinks. No, still not there yet. There you go. Kyle Allen stinks. We're talking about people that stink. There's Paul Lipscomb. Kyle Allen stinks. Baby mama drama. The Bengals 1-2-1 visit the 3-1 Baltimore Ravens. They're laying 11 again. A lot of some serious double-digit lines, high lines this week. Over under 50.5. Baltimore has scored 30 points or more in each of their 3 wins, and it's a battle of former Heisman winners with Lamar Jackson in 2016, Joe Burrow in 2019. We just mentioned Washington. Baltimore took care of business last week with that. The Bengals, they look pretty good. They look a lot better than they did a year ago. I'm sure that has something to do with the quarterback change. Put that out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you see they have a plan now. They have a plan. They have an identity, which is always important as a football team. And they have a leader in Joe Burrow. And now Baltimore comes in the game a little bit banged up, right? Jackson, a little knee twinge. Andrews, a little hurt. Marquise Brown, these guys. I mean, just a little bit. They're all going to play. So that's a big line for a division game, but we're going to see if Burrow can withstand a tough defense. I think this might be the toughest defense he faced so far. Let me see. I forget what his definitely wasn't Philadelphia.
No, to say the very least.
Yeah, so he hasn't played a good defense yet. The Chargers defense isn't bad, which they're competitive in. Cleveland, we know they don't have a defense. Philly, same thing. Jacksonville. So this is going to be really the big test, first big test for Joe Burrow. And it's going to be interesting to see how he responds to it. He has the weapons on offense. Joe Mixon carried the team last week. So it's going to see if he makes the mistake and if they can stop that Baltimore running attack, which I think that they're going to go to a little bit more this week because they went away from it. So I think it's going to be interesting. I think Baltimore runs away with this. I think it should be at least a 14-point win.
Yeah, I mean, again, the Bengals need to work on their defense a little bit more, and they will in time. But again, it sure looks like they have the solution at quarterback, and that's the most important thing. So you can figure things out after you've got that one lined up. So I think we both like the Ravens here. Jacksonville takes a 1-3 record into Houston 0-4. Texans laying 5.5. The over-under is 54. And there are celebrations and socially distant separations in Houston as Bill O'Brien, the head coach, Bill O'Brien, the GM, Bill O'Brien, the idiot, has finally been fired. And honestly, at the end of the day, it is what it is. I think it's probably a good thing.
You know what? I'm against the firing of Bill O'Brien, and here's why. I think he should have been made and forced to lay in the bed that he made. He made this mess in Houston as the GM, as the coach. Why does he get resolved of it, right? Whatever coach is going to come in there, poor Romeo Cornell, I mean, who's a team favorite, is there now, and whoever the next coach is going to be next year has to deal with no draft picks, all this talent that they shipped away. And Bill O'Brien's getting off scot-free. I'm sure he's still getting paid. We're calling him an idiot right now, but he's going to get a coordinator job somewhere next year, probably. He'll probably, it's shocking because you know how the NFL is. His name will probably come up in a head coaching circle at times. I mean, Jason Garrett's name is still out there coming up as possible candidates for the Houston job now. So it's like maybe the ownership should have traded Deshaun Watson and then kept Bill O'Brien and made him forced to sit there and play in the mess.
We talked about this coming in. I mean, they're 0-4. It's good. They're not making the playoffs. Okay, just putting that out there. But the difference is they had their quarterback. The problem is they had no first-round pick, so you can't even benefit from what's going on right now. And that's the bigger issue. And I think maybe they need to start looking at maybe selling some pieces off, like a Brandon Cooks, for example, to maybe a receiver needy team like maybe Green Bay. Just putting that out there. I don't know what
talking to Nazario because he's the only fan of Brandon Cooks that we have any work.
Yeah, but you can probably get him at this point. I mean, again, he's a
Brandon Cooks has been traded more times than friggin' T in India. I mean, you're talking about a guy. But yeah, you have to. You're right though, as far as you have to find some piece that somebody else will want, and if it's Cooks or Will Fuller or something or J.J. Watt, you give Exodus him, make a play here or there for a team that's needs a pass rusher, maybe Seattle. I mean, you're looking for some kind of answer, and what you're going to have to see is you're going to have to see somebody go in there. You have to have completely amazing, knock it out the park drafts for your second and third round picks. Then when you need to trade the second round picks back so they could get third and fourth round picks and just try to acquire as much talent as possible.
They've made some big time organizational mistakes repeatedly. And it is what it is. And you talk about a team like Jacksonville, they were supposed to be in the hunt for Trevor Lawrence. Maybe they still might be, but the team's actually showing a little bit of fight, and you got to give them credit there. James Robinson, I think, clearly is the waiver out of the year for any of you guys that are playing fantasy.
Thank you. But yeah, listen, you're now are we going to see Minshew Mania today? I mean, I think this is definitely a game that Houston can win. They're a 5.5-point favorite, which the line is for an 0-4 team, even at home. Seems a little high, but I think Houston does pull this game out. Jacksonville, on the other hand, they do have Chark back, who the offense does work a little bit better with him. James Robinson has been a super pleasant surprise, for a guy who just kind of was just a guy. Never, he doesn't have that one elite skill, but he's just out there making plays and he's productive. I think at the end of the day, I think Deshaun Watson is able to make a play here or there with his legs, who I hear the rumor out of Houston is they're going to try to have him run more and be a threat that way, the true dual threat. We'll see if that comes to effect today. And I think Houston wins this game and gets off the snide in the going away party for Bill O'Brien.
Don't underestimate how much of a lift that may be for the team. And I think that they're going to want to show that, this guy was the big problem. We can win without this guy. And again, we talked about it last week. We thought that they would have a better game last week because he was taking back over the play calling, or at least a bigger role in it. Didn't materialize. Probably a big reason why he was out. I mean, that was probably his hey, can you at least do this? Because you can't do that. You kind of suck at everything. So now you're fired. I agree. I think if you don't win this one, coming off of where you are, I don't know where you go.
Hey, just blame the GM, right?
Yeah. On to the 4 p.m. games. The 1-3 Dolphins, the 2-2 Niners. Niners laying 8.5, over under 52.5, and they're getting healthy a little bit. Garoppolo, Raheem Mostert, Deebo Samuel, all expected to play. I spelled expected wrong, so now I got to fix that. Anal like that. Dolphins 1-3. Again, we still have not yet seen Tua start a game. I don't know if we're going to see that. We're obviously going to see that today. We might see that in a couple of weeks. But San Francisco, they need to get on track and quick.
Well, yeah, that was a bad loss against Philly last week. I think they didn't expect the Philadelphia team to come out and play as hard as they did. Give them credit because it's a nice win for Philadelphia. Beathard looked 1,000 times better in that offense than Nick Mullins did. I think it was pretty clear if he started the game, it might have been a different result. Now, Garoppolo, Moser, Samuel, all expected back. I mean, if their defensive line could play a little bit better, they were actually bailed out last week because of the Eagles' lack of running, trying to run the ball at all. But since I think this is a game that if San Francisco is going to have the expectation like they had last year, I don't know if they have the realistic expectations of making it back to the Super Bowl, but they should come out here. They should beat up on the Dolphins. Who knows what Fitzmagic's going to do, and I don't think it's Tua time. Interesting thing with Tua is that there have been a lot of reports about his health, and he's healthy now, which kind of leads me to believe that maybe he wasn't healthy to start the season, and they were a little bit unsure of that. So once they start reporting that about the status of his health and the quality of his health, I think that you're leading. It's getting close to see when he's going to be coming into the fold.
I look at this game and I say, if you're San Francisco, you need to win this game decisively. I need to see, I said this about the Bills earlier in the year. I need to see a 20-point win here. I do. I need to see this team play well, because they didn't play well the last 2 weeks. Yeah, they got a win against the Giants. Whoopity-doo. San Fran needs to, again, they need to get themselves back in this discussion for a playoff spot and for the lead in this division. And they do that with a pedal to the floor, beat the hell out of the Miami Dolphins. If you don't see that, I have longer term concerns. Garoppolo's back. I don't want to hear the quarterback argument. You can say your defense has some issues with injuries. I completely agree. You got to figure it out. This is what you're working with. So for me, San Fran better win by the 8.5. Couple 3-1 teams, Colts and Browns. Colts laying 1, over unders 48. Chubb will miss the next 4 to 6 weeks. Indianapolis is the number 1 defense in yards allowed per game by a wide margin, 236 to 290.
Yeah, I think we expected that defense to be extremely good to start the season, and then when they lost to they had a clunker, Jacksonville. They lost to Jacksonville week 1, which was a head shaking surprise that how did this team that was supposed to be so good with that's right, Phillip Rivers came in and threw 5, 6, 7 interceptions. He threw as many interceptions as he has kids, but he Indianapolis is missing Darius Leonard this week. I think they have some issues on the offensive line too. I'm trying to think what offensive lineman was hurt, but they're having some issues there. A lot of people are back in Cleveland on this one. I guess I don't know if they're expecting the run game to really take off, even with Darius Leonard out. Missing Chubb is going to have to affect them eventually because they came in with their backup running backs last week. After Kareem Hunt, and even they were extremely effective. I don't know if that's going to be a week in, week out occurrence. So we're going to have to see if Kareem Hunt can carry the load. That's going to be number 1 for them. Number 2, I think this game, when you're looking at who's going to win this game, very simple. What quarterback makes the mistakes? I think that's
makes more of them, because I think in this case, I think both will.
Yeah,
one due to age, one due to inexperience, and probably lack of talent.
Yeah, and Rivers is been age and he still likes to gamble a little bit. And I think that's an issue that he's going to have to overcome. It's not really who makes the most mistakes; it's when they make them too. Because if it's inopportune time, I think that's really what's going to be the key to this game. I'm going to lead Indianapolis. I think they're going to be able to have a more consistent offense because I don't think they're going to. I don't think that they're going to stray away from what they do, and that's get the ball to John Taylor, get the ball to Hines, get these running backs in, and I think they're going to take away. I think Hooker's out for them as well. So if Brady, Brady, oh my God, wow, timeout on that one, bro. I just was going to call Baker Mayfield Brady. So let's.
Oh yeah, Brady Quinn.
Bleach in my eyes there, but no. If Baker Mayfield has to throw the ball, I think that's the key for Indianapolis to win.
I'm trying to get to the issues. Not the issues. I'm looking at the score from last week because I'm trying to find out exactly the exact number of rushing yards that the Cowboys allowed to this team last week, and that number is 307. 307 rushing yards. The Chiefs have allowed 236 total yards. So they're not going to be able to run roughshod over the Colts the way they did on the Cowboys. So for that reason, primarily, with Chubb out, I like the Colts. I think it's probably fair.
Yeah, it's going to be Costanza is the guy. Anthony Costanza is out with them. So, I mean, Indianapolis is getting the issues. You have Mr. Hooker has the Achilles. Thank you. Welcome to the club. Every week there's a new member of the Achilles torn club, Malik Hooker. But yeah, you're and who else is out? Pittman's out. I mean, so you have Colts injuries are piling up. We'll see. I mean, you got the Dallas shirt on. As soon as they all of a sudden done how bad the Cowboys defense is, once LVE was taken out of that game, it's been a mess. So now let's see if Darius Leonard, who's another great young linebacker, if he's taken out of that Colts defense, are they still that defense? So I listen, 1 point line, I'll take the Colts, but it's going to be close. It wouldn't really be surprising, if Browns pull it out.
I still like the Colts. Maybe that's that back of my mind that we're talking about the Cleveland Browns here that I eventually might get over. I'm not over it yet, so I'll take the Colts here. In a battle of terrible football teams, the 0-4 New York Giants visit the 1-3 Dallas Cowboys, but the Cowboys are laying 8.5, and hey, sure, whatever. The over-under is 52.5. Tyron Smith with a neck injury is out for the season. The Giants, Jason Garrett makes his return to Dallas. I think that's a storyline, but for the Cowboys, the injuries are really piling up, especially on that offensive line. Collins is out. They lost Frederick before the season. No Tyron Smith.
Hey, Jill. Hey, Kurt. Movies?
Is that me or you?
Oh, I can't believe how easy it was to stay with Geico.
Not me.
That's me. Sorry. There's a commercial running.
Watching your Sunday morning cartoons?
No, it's the Cowboys. The stats I was looking up. Stupid ESPN. So yeah. We'll see. But in this case, I'm not really concerned about that.
Yeah, I think one of the things that jumps out to me this game is that over-under looks extremely low. I mean, you're talking about a Giants team who doesn't really have much offense. I mean, much defense against a Cowboys team that has no defense. So, I mean, I expect another shootout. Giants obviously aren't going to be able to run the ball they shouldn't be able to run the ball like a team like Cleveland did.
We expect it to Tuesday, Jeff.
Yes, yeah. The Tennessee game is on Tuesday. So we're looking at if Dallas loses this game, now you really have to have some question marks because first of all, Jason Garrett returning to Dallas to win that would just be a heartbreak. And I think when's the last time the Giants actually beat the Cowboys? It was like 3 years, maybe 4 years. I think the Cowboys are like 6-0 last 6 times they played them, 7-0, something like that. The talent differential just isn't there, to be a competitive game. I mean, it's just too wide. Even without the madness that is the Cowboys secondary and the Cowboys offensive line. This is going to be a game though that you're going to have to see the Cowboys defensive line actually step up and do something. I think that's the unit that has been questioned with some effort and Dexter Lawrence and the hot boys on that other nonsense. They're just not getting it done. You saw in Seattle when they couldn't get pressure on Wilson at all. And it's just a common theme. You have to get pressure on Danny Dimes. He'll make mistakes. He's been making them all season. Fantasy wise, though, this is one of the games that if you have Danny Dimes and you need a quarterback, maybe you were depending on Cam Newton or something like that. This is a game you want to roll Danny Dimes out if you can because I think he's going to run the ball. I think he's going to actually throw a couple touchdowns, probably to Slayton or something like that. And they should put up points. If Giants don't put up points, and let's not forget, Giants also have been playing teams tough. They covered against the Rams, not tough in terms of actually having a chance to win the game, but tough as like they haven't quit. And I'll give credit to the coaching staff up there, except Jason Garrett, because we've seen his teams quit before. But they've played tough every game. And I think it was the Rams game they played, the Bears game they played tough. So the Cowboys should win. I don't know if I could even take them to cover, but definitely the over under 52.5 is something I'd be targeting.
The strength of this team, though, has been the offensive line forever. And now it doesn't feel like that at all. The injuries are massive. And like, I don't necessarily think that this group, we're going to see a lot of what Zeke is from a talent perspective without that line in front of him. And we've always said, what was the marginal benefit of this guy like Zeke over somebody else behind that offensive line? We're going to find out.
Yeah. I mean, let's see, Tyron Smith's out, right? Lyle Collins is out. I mean, they're talking about season injuries, and you're talking about two of the best tackles in the damn league. You're not talking about these
right.
Just the guy kind of people who some guys are going, oh, we have so many injuries, blah blah blah. You're not missing these star players. Joe Looney, who is our backup center to Travis Frederick, they're both out now, and you have the rookie Brazen from Wisconsin who's shown some good stuff in there. They not only have these guys are out, their backups are out too at times too. So it's like, but does anybody besides Leonard Williams on the New York Giants front four scare you? They're not a really strong blitzing team. I mean, it's in Dallas. Dallas wins 42-24, something like that. Sounds realistic.
If they don't win this one, I mean, I don't know what you do.
Yeah, I mean, if they don't win this one, I mean, it'd just be mind-blowing because they do have a ton of talent.
I mean, even with the injuries, I agree. Offensively, I don't think it's even close. So we'll see where that goes. The Sunday night game, the 1-3 Vikings visit the 4-0 Seattle Seahawks. They are laying 6.5, over-unders 56. For the Vikings, Dalvin Cook is your league leader in rushing yards at 424. And for Seattle, their 4-0 record is pretty much entirely on the offense. The 32nd ranked defense out of 32 teams, but the second ranked scoring offense. So they've kind of been both the mirror image of the Cowboys, yet completely the opposite, because the Cowboys defense has been bad, and the offense has been great, but the Seahawks have been winning. And I don't know if that's because maybe they don't let themselves get down the way Dallas does, and they have played each other, but if Seattle's going to win these games, again, you thought adding Jamal Adams would help with that defense. It really hasn't done a whole lot, at least to date, but the offense is clicking on every gear you can think of, and Russell Wilson's the MVP of the league right now. And they get a Minnesota team that, finally got a win last week over Houston. But, I mean, they got their own problems to worry about.
Yeah, passing yards are plenty in this game. I mean, Seattle's been giving up a ton of passing yards, and they've still been winning the game. So it's like it's just a game that Kirk Cousins actually shows up for, throws for about 300 yards. Probably. Will they win the game? I don't think so. I think that you're looking at two teams that have very similar issues. But the one issue that Seattle doesn't have is they have right now the MVP of the league, and that's Russell Wilson. And I think when you have Russell Wilson and the way he's playing, good things will come for you. Both the receiving cores, especially with Justin Jefferson stepping up, I think, look, DK Metcalf and Terrell, and Lockett have been, I guess the best duo in the league, especially with Julio Jones being banged up and Ridley. So, I mean, I think they're taking over that mantle, which might be a little surprising. Defensively and secondary wise, though, it's tough. They got issues.
But can Seattle? I mean, again, we always say defense wins championships. I'm not necessarily saying that's got to be the way this is going to go. But I mean, how far can they really go if this is how bad their defense is going to be?
Yeah, I mean, they might have to adapt more of a Dallas philosophy as far as what I was talking about earlier. As far as you're going to have to run the ball. Have Wilson make plays just to keep your defense off the field. That doesn't seem to be modern football, though. But I think this game right here with Seattle, for them to be true contenders, they need to win this game. The only way that I could see the Minnesota Vikings coming out ahead in this is if Minnesota goes ahead early in the game, maybe a kick return touchdown, maybe a big plan from big play from Jefferson or Thielen, Cook breaks a run, something. So they get that 7 to 14 point lead where they can actually continue to establish the running game. If they get behind quick, which they might do with that secondary, one or two big plays, they're going to have a really bad time trying to catch up, because then Dalvin Cook and that leading rushing, we've seen it. Teams get down one score and all of a sudden they want to turn into, Warren Moon run and shoot offense, and they don't do what they're supposed to do. So if they could get the ball to where you're forcing Cousins to throw, having to make plays, it's going to be some good fantasy numbers. But at the end of the day, I think that benefits Seattle more. And I'll take Wilson. I'll take the Seahawks and the cover.
You think you're giving me a matchup between Wilson and Kirk? Taking Wilson 15 times out of 5.
And primetime game too, right? Doesn't Kirk Cousins have a horrible primetime record?
He does. Yeah. He generally isn't very good to begin with, but he's especially terrible on the night games. We were supposed to have 2 Monday night games, but now we're back to 1, the way things normally are. The 1-3 Chargers against the 2-2 Saints. Saints laying 8, over under 50.5. For the Chargers, Justin Herbert has been named the starter, which we talked about this at different times, different points through this offseason. He needed to be the starter. I know that there was love affair between Anthony Lynn and Tyrod Taylor. That apparently has subsided, and the right decision was made. They will miss Austin Eckler for, I think, 4 to 6 weeks at running back, so we'll see what they do there. For the Saints, Michael Thomas was upgraded to questionable. There's no probable, so it's a coin flip whether he plays or not, but he's missed quite a bit of time. He will be a welcome addition back to this offense. If you're a Saints fan, and I don't know what Drew Brees has left, but it's not exactly confidence inspiring.
No, not at all. But I think, the thing that benefits them is that they're such a talented team where you're looking at, you have the ability to capitalize and beat the teams that you should be. I mean, they beat Denver last week. I mean, not Denver, Detroit last week after a tough game against Green Bay. So I think there's enough talent around Drew Brees if he doesn't try to if Drew Brees doesn't try to go out there and try to do everything and just allows the pieces around him to perform, like Kamara, who might be one of the best running backs in the league, top 3. I mean, we haven't had that conversation in a while, but so I think if Brees just plays within himself and doesn't try to do some great things. Now, Michael Thomas, I don't know if he's really going to play or not, though. I mean, every week he's a game time decision. It seems like every week that the Saints are almost on a national primetime game as well. So, drives fantasy owners mad a little bit. So when you're looking at Michael Thomas, I think this might be the week that he actually shows up and plays, but I wouldn't be 100% optimistic, if having him in my lineup. I think I'd take a wait and see approach to him, because right now you should have, if you're a Michael Thomas owner, you have better options. You've been using them for the last few weeks. You might as well stick with them instead of just throwing them in there and kind of take a wait and see approach. As far as the game wise, Justin Herbert has been an extremely pleasant surprise very early. I mean, you're talking about a kid who was just, a medical malpractice beneficiary for the most part, So you have him.
Who put the doctor there? Was he related to?
Yeah, I think he's the doctor from The Simpsons. But you're looking at.
Hi, everybody.
Exactly. Yeah. So. He's been playing. He played well. He played well against Tampa Bay. I mean, he's looked good, and Keenan Allen has a resurrection fantasy wise because of him. The loss of Eckler, I don't know how much that's going to hurt them. I mean, Joshua Kelly is their back. I think people are sleeping on Justin Jackson. I guess you just acquired him. Is that what happened?
I did, yeah. I have him in one league. I just traded for him in another. Austin Hooper was my backup tight end, and I was starting Travis Kelce, I think, or Justin Waller. I'm sorry.
And Austin Cooper has been absolutely horrible.
Yeah. So I mean, I was going to ask you, what do you think? I mean, they've been a multifaceted running attack all year. Whether it was Eckler and Josh Kelly, I mean, if you bump Kelly up, then you got to pretty much put Justin Jackson in that role where Kelly was, and he was being very productive in that role. So.
Well, I think Justin Jackson is more suited for the Eckler role than he is the Kelly role, to be honest with you, as far as like the running back type. So you might see a little bit more of an uptick in Justin Jackson than expected, and Kelly not being in that plug and play and expecting Eckler. You look at a situation like Mike Davis down in Carolina. Obviously, he's not McCaffrey, but he's the one getting all the touches. He's assuming that entire role. San Diego has been a little bit of a running back by committee. Not completely, but Joshua Kelly has made his impact on that offense. But I don't think you're going to see him take that step up and can assume the entire Eckler role. I think you're going to see, at least a 50-50 split between Justin Jackson and Joshua Kelly, just because of their skill sets are different. I think people are really going to see the value because Eckler has always been undervalued as far as national stage. He's been a little PPR monster the last couple of years, but I'm talking about real football sense. I think Eckler is going to show his value not being there. I think Saints win this cover, win by 10, 15.
How comfortable are you with starting a guy like Jackson, especially in the weird week that we have now with the buys and the COVID games? Like, what's your expectation for him?
Comfortability, huh? Yeah, I think comfortability with Justin Jackson is not something, especially against this matchup against New Orleans. I mean, it's not the matchup you want to run. It's not a favorable matchup at all. It's hard to say without your other options. I mean, he's not somebody I'm rushing to get in my lineup, especially this week.
Well, I had no choice, so we'll see how it goes. I just want to touch briefly. I just saw a comment coming in. Frank DeMeo, Kelly good, but has been fumbling and pass blocking is hard for rookies. That's true. So to your point, Frank, and to your point, Tony, I mean, you really could see Jackson have a bigger role. It's not really the right assumption to say that everybody just moves up a spot. You might just leave the guy where he's comfortable and plug the bit of more of a veteran into that role.
Yeah, and Frank brings up a point as far as especially about pass blocking, because that's the quickest way to get a rookie back on the bench if you miss a couple key blocks, especially with your high draft pick, first round quarterback who's supposed to be your franchise future. You whiff on a couple of them blocks. I think back in the day, Lawrence Phillips back in the day when they thought Trent Green was going to be the future of the St. Louis greatest show on turf, and he whiffed on that block, and the rest is history.
I want to just touch briefly. Again, we're assuming this game is going to be played. We don't know that, but that's what it looks like right now. I didn't see a line for it. Maybe there is one now, but there was when I was getting prepped for the show today. It's a battle of undefeated teams. So like normally a week 5 matchup between undefeated teams would get a little bit more press than the reason this is getting the press, but it is what it is. Buffalo 4-0, Tennessee 3-0. Assuming that they play, I think Buffalo's got a huge advantage because they've been able to kind of go by their normal routine and Tennessee has not.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see when Buffalo actually travels to Tennessee too. No line is a good one. I think for everything I'm hearing is that the league really wants this game to be played. They don't want to have Tennessee skip 2 weeks in a row because that is just maddening and throws everything really into a whack. So I think you're going to see Tennessee and Buffalo actually play the game. It's one of the priorities for the league to actually get it done. So when that happens, that normally is. And I don't think – has there been a test for a player from Tennessee recently? I know I thought
today.
It was
today. Somebody from Tennessee. I don't know if it was a coach or something, but somebody.
No. That's what I'm saying. It wasn't a player. I think it was an ancillary person. I don't think it was a player. So as long as it's not a player, I think there's probably a way to get it done. They do all this. Tannehill came out and blasted the whole testing process and anything the other day on Twitter, and you kind of have to agree with him because they really are not sure. They're getting false positives. So I think they're really confused from the player's perspective. I think this game gets played. I think Buffalo definitely has the advantage unless they're required to show up Tuesday night at 6:00 or something. Then you're throwing everything out. But they've been rolling. Tennessee has been off too long, and they're just in a weird situation. And I'll take Buffalo. Josh Allen's just been impressive.
He has. I mean, he's definitely the best quarterback in this game. And I think the biggest concern here, just generally speaking, for people that watch this show and people that is the fantasy impact of having a game on Tuesday that you don't know is going to be played or not. Because you can't with any sort of certainty, unless your league does contingents, which I know you're very much against. We've had this discussion, but I think I think this is showing you why you do need to have some sort of a fail safe in there. Because
I think, I'm in a league right now where my starting quarterbacks, and it's a play 2 with a super flex is Josh Allen and Ryan Tannehill. So my team's absolutely loaded. But going into the draft, when you're coming in the season, this is stuff that should have been foreseen. So, there's going to be a league. I have the Patriots defense. I'm not going to be playing a defense, which actually that's kind of fine because the defensive scoring has been so out of whack in that league system that if you don't get a negative point, that's a good thing. So instead of picking up somebody like Dallas or something like that, I'll ride with the 0, So it's every league's different. It's madness for owners, but you have to have a plan B, and if you don't plan, your fail to plan doesn't make my emergency, right?
That's true. That's true. That wraps up week 5. When just you and me, the show's going to go a little bit quicker. I don't know if that's an accident or not, but I guess because we just kind of stayed at the points.
Well, I think I was giving Brandon some shit about Carson Wentz last week or something.
Yeah, Brandon actually texted me half 3. He said I'm not going to make it. So it is what it is. But definitely, listen, enjoy week 5. But before that, make sure you check out our friends over at Crowd Play. It's a free app you can download today. Use code THEBOX at sign up to get 10 free points. Here's a little bit more information about them. On behalf of Tony Quigley, I am Brian Attard. Thank you very much for watching the Week 5 NFL preview on the Sports Box. Check out our schedule of shows. We're on most nights a week. Facebook at Sports Box Show, Twitter at Sports Box Show, Instagram at The Sports Box Show. Find us on YouTube and join Outside the Box, our 4,200 member plus Facebook discussion group that's growing, and most of it's actually fun. Sometimes there's some hot takes in there. They're not very good, but most of the time it's fun. So.
Yeah, hot garbage takes and trolls and stuff like that. But we try to do
I'll
our
get a
best.
text from Tony. What's this idiot saying? It is.
What's that?
I'll get a text from you. Can you put what the hell is this idiot talking about? What's this? What's that? It's like, well,
yeah, well, the as you know, the larger the pool gets, the murkier the water. I mean, it's just a natural thing. It's good to have some kind of discussion and stuff like that and get people active. So, like
George Carlin said, imagine how dumb the average person is and realize half people are dumber than that person. And that's the world we live in. So,
yeah, gone too soon, Mr. Carlin. Quick football and fantasy football related to Carlin. Did you see this week, Matthew Berry?
No.
Matthew Berry, as we all know, is the fantasy douchebag or whatever you want to call him.
self.
His show is like Pee-wee's Playhouse. It's absolutely awful sometimes, what they do with that one show. I forget the name of it. But anyway, listen, I'll give him credit because he's where he is. But you know what one of his first jobs was? He was the personal assistant for George Carlin on a George Carlin show.
Really?
Yeah, he came out this week, I think on Twitter or something like that, and was talking about it. So very interesting. Carlin is always one of my favorites.
How about that? Well, obviously he moved into he kind of stepped in shit, right? When you kind of get into fantasy football before it goes up and all of a sudden you just get the job because you've been there long enough.
Yeah, I've been kicking myself for a long time, not acting on that a little bit because I don't know if you remember, even before your time, especially with the daily fantasy idea. I mean, I'm somebody who's in the tech space and the app space and all that kind of stuff. But back in the day, they had on the back of your season previews, your NFL season previews. You're talking about even really, sometimes fantasy football. You would have your player values that you would circle in the back of the pages. And you could actually mail them in and do stuff like that and create values of them, which is pretty much just daily fantasy before it was daily fantasy. So
right.
That sometimes you sit there and every season, every week you're reading the same magazine with the same idea, and then finally the technology catches up to you, and you're not on the bandwagon. So
yeah, absolutely. On behalf of quickly, I am Brian Attard. Enjoy week 5. We will see you all week because that's pretty much what we do all week. Take care.
All right. Take care, man.
Thank you for watching the Sports Box. Follow us on Facebook at Sports Box Show, Twitter at Sports Box Show, Instagram at The Sports Box Show. Find us on YouTube and join Outside the Box, our Facebook sports discussion group. The Sports Box is brought to you by our friends at Crowd Play. Download the free Crowd Play app today and use promo code THEBOX at sign up for 10 points. See you next time.